ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download.
Check this out, we got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors. And yes, it's Friday. The weekend is here, and I have a lot to say, but we have about 1 hour to get everything in. I could just talk for an hour about what I witnessed last night, just in the Thursday night football game, where Mac Jones turned out to be Joe Montana. And don't forget, I'm 45 minutes from Gillette. I lived the Mac Jones experience. And the baseball game. Congrats to the ECSI VIPs. As we went 3-0 in the series, as we had the Yankees, we had the Cubs, and we had the Tigers. Circa has now listed all four of the next series. A couple statements in my eyes. Dodgers opened up -130 at Philadelphia. Remember, best of five, have to win three. This one goes 2-2-1 if needed. Yankees, Schlichter, whatever you want to call him, absolutely dominant performance. Early was great for 3 innings. Red Sox defense has just let them down. No hitting at all. Yankees open up -150 on the road at the Jays. 165-170 Mariners opened up against the Tigers, which to me, again, is a statement because the Tigers might get 2 starts from Skubal. And the biggest eye-opener, and I was saying to myself, I'll know how this number opens up, which side they're looking for. Milwaukee, the #1 seed, well-rested, just waiting patiently. Now for the Cubs, opened up -115, Cubs -105. I was born at night, not last night. So already locked and loaded on knowing where we're going to go on all 4 series. We got the exactas set up for the World Series. We have a play on the American League champ. We have 2 plays on the National League champ. One will go down, of course. But anyways, first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download that app. It is free. And AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Steaks, seafood, chops, appetizers, wines. Terry Smith has it all. Go follow him on Facebook. Come on back to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Shout out to Mando. Mando, go Cubs, go Cubs. Yes, that number tells me you could be moving on to the NLDS. So without further ado, Mr. Scott Webb. What's up, Scotty?
I'm tired, bro. Watching all those baseball games and dealing with all this stuff, all the college football handicapping and Halloween, and I had a 12-foot monster fall down yesterday. I had to pick him back up. All that stuff. It's holy crap, but I love it.
Well, I know this is our football show. Actually, no, I'll save the baseball for last. I have a list a mile long here. It's kind of comical. And listen, I preach. I preach. And sometimes I didn't follow my preaching. And where I'm going here, Scotty, is very simply in a survivor pool, there's some do's and there's some don'ts. And the don'ts, if you can, obviously, if you're getting late, you got to do it. But you don't play divisional games and you don't play Thursday night games. It's just that simple. And yet, when the list of injuries came out and the line went from 3 to 6.5 to 9, which I will tell everyone this, at the Circa, went back to 7.5. The shops came back in on San Fran. But listen to this list here. It's comical. No Thursday night, no divisional games. Then the Rams fumble on the 1, fumble on the 24, missed a field goal, missed an extra point, 4th and 1 in OT in the red zone. Mac equals Montana. Panero from 59. No Boza, Kittle, Purdy, Ayuk, Purcell, Jennings. I mean, do I need to go on? And it's so funny when you see a 9-point favorite in college and other sports. You're like, well, if you like the dog, you kind of think at least sprinkle some money on pizza and beer money on the dog because they can win. In the NFL, when you see an 8, 9, 10-point dog, the wires aren't there for them not to just cover but win outright. 49ers go in, coming off the loss to Jacksonville where they got their butt whipped. Big statement, and they get rest and they travel probably to the Lamar-less Ravens next week. So, I'm sorry, that's the Rams, excuse me, who now get fortunate because Lamar's not going to be there. But talk a little about what you saw and your thoughts before, during, and after the Thursday night fiasco.
So the 49ers, Jeff, next week, they come here. They come to Tampa, so that's probably not a good spot for them. But anyway, all that being said, the NFL is a tricky thing. And Mandel asked a question. He said, "You guys answer questions about fantasy football." I'm going to let you answer that, Jeff, because I don't do that. So that's a Jeff question. Jeff plays 75 different leagues and 65 different scoregami things and all that stuff. So he's all in on fantasy football. So you got fantasy football questions. He's your man. But I will say this. In the NFL, it's very tricky because, my opinion about the NFL, and I said this several times, college football, you can line up teams and you can go, hey, one roster is just better than the other one, and you can see who's going to win the game. But in the NFL, there's so many different things that happen because all these guys are similar, meaning that they're the best in the world at what they do. Sure, there's certain players that are a little bit better than others, but the reality is that they're all really the best in the world. They're great, and I want to make sure I say this very clearly because I played baseball at a very high level, and the reality becomes is that you don't realize how good these guys really are. I mean, you really don't. I know, and I see there's this guy on Twitter, Shane Train, whatever his name is, and he thinks he's the God's gift to handicapping sports, and he gives up these minus 200s and 300s and money line parlays and all this stuff, and I'm sitting there going, man, you don't know shit. And then not only does he not know that part of it, he's a trend guy. He goes and does all the research and all the different things and and all that stuff, and but then he goes and picks on the players, and I'm like, look. If you only knew how good these guys really were, like the two pitchers yesterday, right? The Schlittler kid and your kid early, right? So it's like if you stood beside them, they will tower you. I mean, you don't know how big these guys are. Schlittler's 6'4", I think, or 6'5", or something like that. And early he's 6'3", and he looks like a little kid. Of course, that's because they stand by Judge and Stanton. So, it is. But my point is that these players, the NFL players, the Major League Baseball players, the NHL hockey players, the NBA players, they are the best in the world at what they do. There's nobody that's better than these players. So when they're in these spots, the next man up is not a bad player. He's another best in the world kind of guy. So the variance drop is hard to calculate, and it's hard to calculate really because what I always tell people, especially like in baseball handicapping, because it goes through all the time. Oh, Bryce Harper's not going to play. Well, you got to drop the line a whole bunch. No, you don't. It's cluster injuries that matter, and San Francisco has them. They have cluster injuries, but where are their clusters? San Francisco's cluster injuries are all in wide receivers in different places. You know, if it's all on the offensive line, or if it's all on the defensive line, or if it's all in the secondary, or if it's all somewhere like that, those clusters matter more than because the guys that can fill in behind them, yeah, they're a drop off, but they're not much of a drop off. And you saw that, I think, a little bit last night. Now, the other part of this is, these guys get cute in the NFL a little bit, and they outthink themselves some, and they try to be super smart, and they try to be all this stuff. And the truth of that matter is that they just outsmart themselves. And I think McVay fell into that yesterday.
No, and I do too. And the funny is again is what I said very simply is with the plethora of injuries, especially on the offensive side, McVay should have been simple. McCaffrey's not going to beat us. Well, when I go back and I look at the stats, he didn't beat him on the ground, and it's comical because we know he can catch the ball out of the backfield. And the funny here is that the line is very simply McCaffrey rushed 22 times for 57 yards. So you did your job there. 9 targets, 8 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown. So you didn't do your job there. My point is he was a focal point of 31 plays, and he was able to produce in 30 of the 31 plays. And even after all the problems, all the mistakes, all the fumbles, the missed extra point, the field goals botched, Panero from 59, you had it down in overtime on a 4th and 1. You rush to the line. San Fran calls a timeout. You call a timeout, and then you run a play to the right, and you got stuffed. And it was just piss poor from start to finish. You know, it's like I say, we're like tea bags in life. We only get working when we're in hot water, and down 14-0, the light bulb went on. But come overtime when you had a chance to make up for all your mistakes, all the problems, and walk off with a 3-point win with the first down and then eventually a touchdown, you get egg on your face, Scotty.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't watch one down of that game, but I can look at the advanced stats and do different things and kind of get an idea of what's going on in the game. I was all in on baseball yesterday, so I was watching that. So I do know from what I read and what I saw and what I heard about the game a little bit, and just looking at it. In the advanced categories and different things, it was a pretty even game statistically. I get it that San Francisco took an early lead, and then the Rams came back a little bit there. But again, I think this all comes down to what the head coaches do to a certain degree, and in a lot of ways. I'm not saying that one was better than the other last night, but certainly the Rams. Opinion, the Rams head coach kind of botched this towards the end. I mean, that last drive, right, the overtime drive, they knew what they needed. They just needed a field goal to tie the game. From what I understood, and maybe you can tell me differently, Mac Jones was hurt at the end of the game. He's not feeling good. So if he's hurt at the end of the game, and there was still 4 minutes to go when they got down there to the 4th and 1, and they ran for it and didn't make it. Why not kick the field goal, stop them, and then try to score again? Because Mac Jones isn't going to do anything if he's hurt. Anyway, point being is sometimes people overthink different things, and I know that doesn't necessarily help the gamblers who are in the because ties I think lose in the the knockout contest, the survivor contest. So that doesn't necessarily help those people. But the reality is, if you want to win a game or you want to move forward and you want to do different stuff, those are the games you can't lose in their divisional game, especially with a banged up team like that. So it's interesting to see how professional football goes. Sometimes I sit there and watch some of these teams. The same thing applies to baseball. I sit there and watch some of these teams, and at this point, you sit there and go, "What are the Colorado Rockies doing? Are they really a professional baseball organization?" You sit there and you go, "Seriously? I mean, are they even run right? None of it makes any sense." You look at what the Marlins do, and you go, at the beginning of the season, you were like, "What the hell are they doing?" And then all of a sudden, they got a better record than the Braves. So you just got to let things play out sometimes and see how it goes. And it's one blip in the schedule of 18 games. So we'll see how it goes.
Before we get back to the college, I'll bring up the in pocket games. Our last show of the week, excuse me. Let's stick to the NFL, Scotty. We didn't go over that yesterday. Do you have any leans, any in-pocket plays, anything that you're seeing for this weekend in the NFL?
Let me go there real quick. Well, there's a couple of things that I'm trying to figure out. Like, I'm not super impressed. I know people like Minnesota. I wasn't like the quarterback that got hurt for them. He was only good for a half, maybe 1/4 even. So then he put in Carson Wentz and he had a good game, but Carson Wentz is washed up. He's not Carson Wentz. And now they're going to play the Browns, and the Browns have one of the best defenses in the NFL. So, and I'm not saying the Browns are any good either, but what I am saying is the Browns defense can hold Minnesota. So I think that I don't think the under's the right spot. But if you're going to give me 3.5 points with the Browns, I'll take them, even with Dillon as the quarterback. I know they're going to make a quarterback change. That might even infuse that team a little bit. I think Junkins is starting to play a little bit now too for the Browns. So I kind of like Cleveland in that spot, and I haven't bet it yet. But I wasn't sure if it wasn't going to get to 4. I don't think it's going to. I think 3.5 is probably where the number is. But I do like Cleveland in this spot in that particular game. The other one that I'm kind of trying to figure out, everybody I think likes the Raiders this week, and I don't think I can go there. The reason I keep there is Geno Smith he might be leading the league in passing yards. He's pretty close if he's not leading the league in passing yards, but he's also leading the league in interceptions. Yeah, he's turning the ball over like crazy. And you can't bet on a team that's going to turn the ball over. And I get it, they're getting a touchdown, but Indianapolis is playing some solid football. And I everywhere I turn and everywhere I listen to and things I hear, that everybody's saying, well, the power rating should be 4 points, and it should be 5 points, it should be 3.5 points for Indianapolis. I just can't get there with the Raiders, so I'm not playing that one. But another one I'm really starting to think about is Denver plays at Philadelphia. Philadelphia hasn't been really good. They've been good on defense. They haven't been really good on offense yet. Denver's been pretty good on defense, and that number is 4. So if that number creeps to 4.5, which I think was the open was 4.5, I think it's 4 now. I think 4.5. 4.5 is definitely a bet. 4, I think, is bettable. And I think Denver's the right side in that game. And then the last one I was kind of looking at was I'm still not sold on Jacksonville. I think Kansas City goes and beats the shit out of Jacksonville on Monday night. So I'm probably going to go there.
The NFL this week, not for long. Any given Sunday, where are my eyes? It's kind of funny. I'll start with the Minnesota Cleveland game. Again, Minnesota gets embarrassed in Ireland last week by the Steelers. They stay across the pond and now in London to face the Browns. And the way I break that game down is simple. I'll take initially Brian Flores, and I think he's the best DC in the game right now. Minnesota on a bounce back spot against a rookie debut with Dylan Gabriel. But then I'm like, hey, not so fast, Jeff, here. Because as you just stated, that Cleveland D is something else as well. And I don't trust Wentz as far as I can throw him. It's been stuck on 3.5 for a reason. So that's a stay away from me. I do lean the same thing with you. I think Minnesota finds a way to bounce back. But I don't think they cover the 3 and a hook there. There's some trash out there. The funny one, Miami and Carolina, I wouldn't touch that. If you Venmo'd me $100, I'd Venmo you $200 back. Tell you to take the bride out for lunch or something. Baltimore look-ahead line 9.5. Hosting Houston, no Lamar. Houston now -1 there. The Ravens next week get to host the Rams, so look out there. Giants, New Orleans, no thanks. Again, Giants coming off an upset win over last week. Why am I drawing a blank? Giants upset.
Hold on, the Giants beat the Chargers.
Yeah, we had the Giants here at ECSI. Now they go at road dogs against Spencer Rattler and the New Orleans Saints, and the Saints are 1.5 2-point favorites. Comical. Denver, Philly. I'm going to go the opposite here, meaning this. The line opened up at 4.5 for a reason, Scotty. Everyone remembers what they saw last on Denver on Monday night, and they've been good, but they've been okay. They've been every other. I'm not saying they're regressing. They're just not clicking right now. Here's a Philly.
They've been bad.
Yeah, here's a Philly team that's 4-0. Just coming off a win at Tampa. But the funny thing about them is 2 of their 4 games this year, they've done nothing in the second half. Last week, they didn't complete a pass. They threw 1 pass in the second half. And 2 games prior in the second half, they had 11 yards, yet they're still winning. So I think the books were trying to bait people to take the 4.5. It did go right to 3.5. But here's the funny. We know 3 is a key number. The sharps didn't come in and buy the 3.5. It sat there for 3 days at 3.5. Now it's back to 4. So I lean Philly to play a full game this week. We got sniped on Geno last week. That was our only loss on the Westgate Superbook card. We went 4-1. We had the Raiders. They just had to kick the field goal, which was blocked. I wouldn't trust Geno as far as I could throw him. Dallas Jets, that opened up a pick, and it went right to 2.5. For me, it would be the Jets or nothing there. Tennessee and Arizona, I don't trust the midget in Arizona as far as I could throw him. Tampa, Seattle, this is another funny one. Opened at 1.5, went right to 3.5, hasn't moved, sharp number. Tampa Bay on a bounce back. I think the 2-point move was the fact that Bucky Irvin's not going to play. That's just my take there. I do lean Seattle there. I'm not getting in front of them. They've been playing great. Another funny line. Chargers have been stuck at 2.5 all week. I knew right away that would be Jaden Daniels is going to play. That never got to 3. Not once. I lean Washington there. Detroit since
Jaden Daniels hasn't been anything near what he was last year, this year.
I get that part. Why didn't that go to 3? It's been stuck at 2.5.
I'm just saying.
And the fact of the matter is, Chargers off a upset loss against the Giants coming back home. I would have respected that at a 3.5. I'm not just saying because Jaden's back, that's the number. My point, just reading the market, it's been stuck at 2.5 the whole week there. Detroit, Cincy, listen, we know Cincy can't score. We know Detroit can put up 40 with the best of them. It's a 10. The whole world's got Detroit moneyline parlays, 3-team teasers, 2-team teasers. Listen, Cincinnati got waxed on Monday night in Denver. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. Lions next week, I think if I remember correctly, at Kansas City. So a little peek ahead there. I would take Cincinnati plus the 10.5 and pray. Here's a funny one. New England Buffalo. The line opened at 10.5 for a reason. They needed Patriot money. It went all the way to 7.5. It's back to 8. Now, after what I saw yesterday, wouldn't be shocked if what we saw yesterday with Mac Jones is something that you might see with Drake May. A shootout at the OK Corral with a chance to not just hang around, backdoor cover. Maybe they hang around enough to win. Buffalo hasn't lost yet. But for me, the only side I could play is Buffalo minus the 7.5. And you talked about Kansas City, Jacksonville. Opened up at 2.5. It went right through 3 and now 3.5. They got their Chiefs money. Go back a couple Sundays ago when the Chiefs were minus 6 at the Giants. Russell Wilson had first and goal from the 5 for the cover. He threw it out of bounds at the back of the end zone 3 times. He didn't get the memo. Kansas City wins, Giants cover. So wouldn't be shocked here again with the 3.5. Chiefs win and don't cover. But what I want to do now, Scotty, here is I want to pull up your in-pocket plays for college again. And I'm going to tell everyone here, where are they? Come on, Jeffrey. Here you go. Scotty Webb's in-pocket plays this week in college. Illinois minus 9.5. Washington minus 6. Texas minus 7. Alabama minus 10.5 against Diego and Vanderbilt. Miami minus 4 at Florida State. Scotty, NCAA, the stage is yours.
Yeah, the only thing that in those so far that I've already bet, Texas, Florida took some money there, so that number I think is 5.5 or something like that now, not 7. I could have waited, it seems like, and got a better number with Texas, but whatever. I bet it the way I bet it, and I bet it based on what I look at and so forth. So it is what it is. So I would say this about the NCAA: if you were going to bet tonight, the only game that I like is New Mexico. I like New Mexico plus the 2.5 tonight. I'm not betting that game only because when I bet college football, a lot of times. And you're going to hear me say something, then I'm going to do something stupid. But I don't like to bet on, I don't know that team real well. I know what I see data-wise. I've not really watched them play. So I feel uncomfortable about how good they really are without really seeing them. So data-wise, I think they not only do I think that the 2.5 is good, I think they win outright against San Jose State. So I know San Jose State, everybody's like, well, they were good a couple years ago. Well, they're not good anymore. So they got beat by Stanford, for God's sakes. So I think when you start to look at it, I didn't bet it just because I don't trust them. But sometimes I do that anyway. Sight unseen, you bet on teams. So if I was going to play tonight in college football, that's the game I would bet. I have seen, and for example, Brad Powers gave out. Tonight. He gave out Colorado State. He said Colorado State plus the 6. His thought basically was San Diego State is overrated coming off their win last week, and he thinks that Colorado State's probably getting a little undervalued there. Kenny White's got the number. At San Diego State minus 6. He's got the score San Diego State 24-17. Bill Connolly's got the score 30-15. So when it comes to the data guys and some of the other stuff, they don't agree with what Brad Powers just said. So anyway, I was just kind of giving out some other, food for thought kind of things. Power plays, these newsletters that you can get. I get all of them for free. So if you want to know what they are, just let me know. Power Plays has a 4-star play on BYU tonight. That's minus 20 at this point, I think, or 18-19. And basically it's just a bad spot. West Virginia going to play up in the mountains, and they've got a bad offense, and a decent defense, but BYU should beat them. I don't know if they really beat them by 20. It just depends on motivation in that game. So I'm leaving those alone. But I will say this. I did add 2 other games. I don't know if Fresno State made it. Fresno State's obviously not on our list there, but Jeff, that's the last game of the week. If you want, I don't know. Do you have games on paper pulled up?
Let me
Like,
see. I can grab it. Hold on one second.
The reason I wanted to share that it's probably the last one on the board. Fresno State plays Nevada this week, and Nevada, they rank 130th out of 133 schools in EPA. So that's not very good. I mean, when you're almost dead last, and then Fresno State ranks 58th. Fresno State's getting available air yards, like look at all the purple for Nevada, Jeff. I mean, like it's not even. I mean, it's not even a little bit of purple. It's like holy shit purple. It's really bright purple, and then when you start to look at even where Fresno State has a little bit of purple there in that defensive category, but it matches up to what Nevada can't do. So Nevada can't move the ball. Fresno State can move the ball, and they should have some very good success here moving the ball. Nevada, when you start to think about what they got going on, they got a quarterback who's completed 50% of his passes. He's got 490 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions. He's been sacked 4 times. That's not very good offense. Their leading rusher is the quarterback. So the quarterback is their leading rusher. And then when you start to look at who they played, well, Nevada got beat by Penn State 46-11. Then they played Sacramento and beat them by 3 points. I mean, that's a team that's no good. Middle Tennessee State beat Nevada 14-13, and then Western Kentucky, who's down this year, they beat them by 15. This Fresno State team, if you look at them and you go back and say, well, let's go look at their breakdown for a second. Fresno State's got a quarterback that's completed 75% of his passes. Now, he's not been real good on interceptions. He's got 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, but they're a big running team. They got a guy that's already run for 350 yards. They got another guy that's run for 247 yards. And they're not the quarterback. Those are rushing, running backs. They played Kentucky or Kansas. Kansas obviously is a better class than they are. Destroyed them 31-7. But then they played Georgia Southern, and they destroyed Georgia Southern 42-17. Fresno beat Oregon State, and then they played, I don't know who they played. They played Southern or somebody and beat them 56-7. And then they beat Hawaii last week in Hawaii. That's not the easiest thing to do when you're these kind of schools. Now they play Nevada. Nevada's not any good at all. This number's 13.5. I think they win by 17 to 20 points. I think for small schools, this is one of the ones that you want to bet on. And so that's one I added. And then one other one that I added, Jeff, you remember last week I said on Friday's show that, hey, we had a line move against Ohio, and I thought Ohio was a good play, and then I didn't bet it. Well, Ohio, they're a noon game, and Ohio plays Ball State. So click that one. Right down your right to right beside Army. There you go. Look at all the purple on Ball State. Holy cow. So 123, 121, 132, 124. That's not very good for Ball State. So it appears that Ball State's not going to be able to stop Ohio's offense. And then Ball State, Ohio's defense hasn't been that great. But remember who Ohio has played. So if you click on that link, Jeff, where it says, the profile, Just remember Ohio. Ohio has played. They played Rutgers 34-31. They beat West Virginia. They played Ohio State. They beat Bowling Green. That was the game that people were coming in on Bowling Green, and I was like, no, it should be the other way. And that they covered that game. This game, Ohio is minus. What is it? Ohio's minus 14 in this game. So I like the idea that Ohio can beat Ball State. Ball State is the worst MAC team of all the MAC schools. And Ohio and Toledo, those two teams, and I think Miami, Ohio probably fits in somewhere in there, but Ohio and Toledo are the best MAC schools. So you got the best MAC schools going against the worst ones. And I think this is probably a good spot for Ohio. And just I'm going to slide this up for a second. Parker Navarro, he's really good. He's thrown for 1,100 yards already, 8 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. It's really, really good for him. And then if you look at the Ball State quarterback, for example, Ball State quarterback, he's got 65 completions percent. He's only thrown for 488 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's been sacked 15 times. Okay, I'm in on Ohio. Minus the 14. I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, the guy's going to get sacked. He's not going to do a whole lot. So there you go. So if you want me to break down any game specific, I can do that, whatever you want. I know, like we talked about the other day, I think a lot of people like what was that game, the Iowa State game, and they don't like Iowa State, or a lot of people were betting the other way, but I've seen the line kind of waver there a little bit. It's come back towards Iowa State. I had a friend tell me that he liked Virginia Tech this week, and I kind of betted that game, and I'm like, I can't get on board with that. So if there's anything you want me to look at or break down, I can certainly do that.
Well, we'll sit and wait. We got about 13 minutes left. If someone jumps on with a question, we'll dive back in. I was going to use the last 13 minutes here to talk about what we saw Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the bases. Again, the wild card first game winners were 12-0 leading into this week. And I just want to preface this again, guys. The people that are bitching, yelling, screaming, complaining, why does the home team get to host all 3 games? It's simple, because 3 years ago, the MLB did away with the one and dones. The one and dones were win and move on to the next round, which would have been right here, and the loser goes home packing. What they said is, we're going to get rid of that. We're going to match these teams up, and the team with the best record in the regular season, 162 games, will host all 3 games to save on travel. So that's what happened. And going into this week, the team that won the first game was 12-0, and unfortunately, it was the Red Sox that broke that streak. So now it's 15-1. Yankees move on to Toronto, minus 150 openers in that series there. The Guardians move into Seattle minus 170, 165 there. In the National League, Dodgers, Phillies, winner goes, I think, to the World Series. Dodgers open up minus 130 there. It's going to be a hell of a series. I think that goes 5, Scotty. And then the last one, here come the Cubs versus the number 1 seed Milwaukee Brewers. Great regular season, as we know. Been sitting there waiting and rested. Vegas opens up the Brewers minus 115. Cubs minus 105. I was born at night. Thoughts on the next series moving forward, Scotty?
Yeah, there's a couple things here that I'd like to say. First, I like that Cleveland's not in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong; it's not because I'm not a Cleveland fan. I hate their brand of baseball, but they whatever, it is what it is. They got to where they got to. They made a big run. They got in. I'm glad the Reds are no longer in there. Look, they made it. All that stuff. I like it when the best teams are there. And Cleveland's not better than the Tigers. They're not. And my power rating numbers for that, for example, because I use base runs and stuff, and I don't even have Cleveland as a 500 team. They were the luckiest team in baseball. They won 11 games they should not have won. So I like the fact that they're not in. So having said that, so that part of it to me is good. I felt kind of bad for Boston. The reason I felt kind of bad for Boston is I think the two best teams in the American League played already. I think Boston and the Yankees were the two best teams. I know that everybody's in love with Seattle, but I don't think Seattle's the best team. And Detroit, obviously, you've seen their issues. They can't score. So they're going to run into problems when they play the Yankees or even the Seattle Mariners, for that example. I mean, Seattle can score. So I think they're going to run into some of that problem. So I'm happy sort of with the way things are kind of shook out. The one dissatisfaction that I have with some of this is if I go look at the breakdown of the tournament and where the tournament is at this point, I don't like that the Cubs won and now they got to play the Brewers. They played the Brewers 13 times already. Same thing happened with the Yankees beating the Red Sox. Now they got to go play the Blue Jays. They played them 13 times already. I would have kind of liked it to have been where, and I know it's all seeding and all that, but it would have been nicer if the Yankees would have went to play like Seattle and Detroit would have had to play Toronto, and then they would have made, similarly. Well, I would have liked it if Dodgers and Phillies met for the championship series to go to the World Series. That would have been best for me. So as that kind of goes, you get stuck with what you get stuck with. Now, I will say this. I find it a little bit interesting because this is 2-2-1, right? So you got 2 in one spot, 2 in another, and then 1. I've said all year long that the home teams are winning these games. The road teams are really struggling in these spots. And the only road team that won in the wild card series was Detroit. And in my opinion, the reason they won, they should have won game 2. The only reason that they won was they were better. So now when you go to these series places, the road team's going to struggle a little bit, and that includes the Dodgers. The Dodgers on the road are not the same team as they are at home, and the Phillies are awesome at home. So this is going to, I think if you're thinking about handicapping these games, you've got to keep that in mind as you do it. But I haven't done a whole lot with it yet. I was looking at it this morning, Jeff, and I was going to do like I did last time and create, the lines that go out for 2 or 3 or 4 days and then kind of come up with my own series prices and that. The problem with that is I don't know who's going to pitch. And the reason that you run into problems this way is these games aren't set up. So, the Yankees have just played. So they can't go. They're not going to have their best pitcher pitching in game 1. It's going to be number 4 against the Toronto's number 1. So similarly, the Tigers are in that spot. The Dodgers already know who they're pitching. They're throwing Ohtani. So and then the Cubs, they got to throw somebody. So they're at these teams that won are at a disadvantage coming in. Now, so I started looking at it, and where I get some of this advance notice kind of stuff is I go to Roster Resource, and Roster Resource does a pretty good job of selecting who's going to pitch. And I couldn't believe what I saw. So the Yankees-Toronto series, I would have expected Gausman to be the number 1 pitcher for Toronto. According to them, Roster Resource, it's going to be Shane Bieber and then Gausman and then Scherzer. So the matchups would look like this: Shane Bieber against Luis Gil, or we don't have that confirmed yet because Warren could pitch that game for the Yankees, but Bieber against Gil, and then you have Gausman against Fried. Well, I like Fried in that matchup. There's no question I like Fried in that matchup. And then you go back to New York and you got Scherzer against Rodon. Give me Rodon at home. right? And to be real honest with you, I'm not sold on Bieber as a playoff pitcher, period. So if he's the number one guy, I don't know how this I really don't know how that's going to work out for Toronto if that's what they're doing. I haven't seen that, but that is very worrisome if I was a Blue Jay fan, because to be honest with you, I think Luis Heel can pitch just as good or better than Bieber can. You know, the other thing you got to remember is Toronto, the shortstop's not playing. Bissett, he's not he's hurt, so he's out right this minute. So that's a big part of their lineup, and I sit there and go, I don't know how this pitching matchup is going to line up that way. Where's Bassett for Toronto? I get it. He's not a big flamethrower, but he's a bulldog. He's going to get in there and fight, and that's where I think Bieber loses that edge. Bieber he puts the ball in the right spot or he gets crushed, and these are the Yankees, and I don't mean that in disrespect. They're going to hit balls that aren't right where they're supposed to be. So I'm kind of confused. Now in the Cubs series, when you look at the Cubs and how they match up, the Cubs, they're going to start Colin Ray in Game 4, and he's going to go against Peralta. Well, that's a pretty good matchup for Peralta, but I will say the Cubs pitchers have been pretty good at home. Remember we talked about Tyon being really good at home, and I think he proved that again yesterday. These kids are good at home. The Brewers don't have that big home field edge like the Cubs do. But Colin Ray, when I looked at his numbers, has been very good. One of the better pitchers for the Cubs in the last month of the season. And then they're going to have Boyd against Priester. Okay, well, Boyd's been pretty good. Priester's been pretty good. So that kind of matches up about even. I almost always are going to like the Cubs offense over the Brewers offense, even though the Brewers have, Brewers don't have superstars. They just have a bunch of guys who are above average, and they can score from anywhere. But so can the Cubs. And then you have Imaniga, which I don't like, against Chad Patrick, which is hit or miss. Well, I don't think that's a great matchup for the Milwaukee Brewers, especially when you go, okay, well, we're going to have Imaniga at home. Well, Imaniga at home is better than he is on the road. But you know what I mean? Like Imaniga gets hit. So I thought they tried to limit what his exposure was when they had an opener pitch for him the other day. He still got rocked. And then the Padres had that same problem. We talked about Darvish in the playoffs. He gave up the runs in the first inning, and he couldn't make it out. Right, we pitched one inning. That was it. So I think that's kind of an interesting dynamic to how these things match up. And if I go look at Detroit, the interesting thing that I saw with Detroit is how Seattle looks. Seattle's going to start Luis Castillo, according to this, and then Kirby, and then Brian Wu. Now, you got to remember, Brian Wu's hurt. He hasn't pitched since the beginning of September. He pitched a bullpen session and went well, so I think he's going to throw. I don't know what you're going to get, but, Brian Wu is their best pitcher. So now you have Castillo, veteran guy, he's going to give you what he's got. He's been good at home. George Kirby gets hit. So I'm kind of confused on okay, where's the Mariners there? Where is the other guy? Where's Logan Gilbert? Why isn't he in here? So I'm trying to figure. So he would go probably fourth or whatever. I don't know if this is right. So I can't, in my mind, I can't go make lines and do stuff without knowing, because this is also telling me that Detroit is going to come out with Skubal pitching the first game. I don't think he's going to pitch the first game. So it says Castillo against Skubal and Kirby against Mize. I don't think that's possible. So I don't know how that's going to play out, how it's going to work. I can tell you that Detroit does not have a fourth starter or a fifth starter. So they've been throwing bullpen games. Quieto Montero or Chris Paddock, those kind of guys are their number 4 guys. That doesn't match up to Seattle. So in game one, certainly, if that's who Detroit's going to throw, I think Seattle's got a big edge there. Scuba would have to pitch game two, and then he's going to have to pitch the game five game to make it work. And then Mize is going to have to win one in the middle somewhere, or Flaherty. And, we talked about this for yesterday's matchup. Flaherty was a bulldog. He pitched good enough. I mean, they only let him go 4 2/3. He could have pitched the 5 if they would have let him. But I thought he pitched pretty well yesterday. And Stacconi, I didn't think was going to do as good. And he pitched 1 or 2 innings, and then he got kind of beat up a little bit. So I kind of, the games kind of went like I thought they would. Schlittler was somebody who was unhittable yesterday. I was not expecting that. I didn't know what to expect because I didn't see the Boston kid pitch much, so I wasn't sure what was going to get from him. But I will tell you this: if the New York Yankees are going to go out there and they're going to throw, if the Yankees are going to go Max Fried with Rodon and Luis Gil and Schlittler, and they can get good things out of Luis Gil, I think a lot of teams are going to struggle with beating them. So we'll see how it plays out. But I do think the Yankees are better than the Blue Jays. I think the Yankees are better than the Mariners. But we'll just see how all these series play out and where the pitching matchups kind of get involved. The one I didn't talk about, Jeff, that's interesting is if I go to the Phillies matchups with the Dodgers, and we already know Ohtani's pitching, so it's going to be Christopher Sanchez against Ohtani. Sanchez is actually the favorite right now, listed as I think 120 or something like that. So basically, that's just the home field edge. And then you have Ranger Suarez against Blake Snell. Well, let me tell you, Blake Snell is not the same pitcher on the road that he is at home, and Blake Snell's hittable. And look. He's been great. Don't get me wrong. He's been great. Ranger Suarez is definitely hittable too. I mean, but he's a bulldog kind of kid. And then Jesus Luzardo against Yamamoto. These are great matchups. I mean, they're just great pitching matchups. The Dodgers do not do as well against left-handed pitching either as they do right-handed pitching. So you have lefty Sanchez, lefty Suarez, lefty Luzardo. That's look. It's going to be fun to see how all this kind of goes. But I think Yamamoto at home is going to certainly be an advantage for the Dodgers. And if the Dodgers can win one in Philadelphia, I think that's not that the Phillies can't win at Dodger Stadium, but they need to defend. They need to win both of those games in Philadelphia. And then steal one at the Dodgers and then come back and win the last one in Philadelphia. Kind of see how I see that. I think the Yankees, Gosman's not been the Yankee killer. The Yankees have hit Gosman most of the time. And it's one of these things where, Scherzer, he looks like me, gray, and, he hobbles out there and stuff. He's old. So, and Bieber, he's either hit or miss with Bieber. So I think the Yankees can beat Toronto in Toronto, even though Toronto's had a great home record. The Yankees are one of the best road records. So I think that matches up pretty good for the Yankees. And I think Detroit's going to struggle matching up to Seattle, although I will say, they still got to beat Skubal twice. So we'll see how that goes. And then Detroit's going to have to find a way to win one of those games Skubal doesn't pitch. But remember, when Skubal pitched against the Detroit or against the Cleveland, he only allowed 1 run, and that wasn't enough because the Detroit only scored 1 run. So if you're only going to score 1 against Seattle, I don't think you're going to win much. So I guess the way I would see this is I think New York moves on. I kind of like the Cubs against the Brewers, and I know that's not necessarily a great way to look at it, but I kind of do. And then and I think I really think I got to look at the records because I think Milwaukee actually beat the Cubs in the series for the season. But I think Boston beat the Yankees too, right? I think in this. So I don't think that really matters too much. It matters some, but not too much. I'm interested that this Dodgers Phillies thing is going to be great baseball. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be drama every inning. And I guess we'll just kind of see what plays out there in these series, and hopefully the better teams move forward. Like I guess I'm rooting for a Yankees Mariners matchup, and I guess if one of the teams between the Phillies and the Dodgers have to win, I think the Phillies are the best team. So I think Phillies Cubs would be a good matchup, and then wouldn't it be fun to have a Yankees Phillies World Series?
It would be. Great breakdown as always. Again, the Seattle Detroit again. 165, 170. That's knowing Skubal pitches twice. I think Detroit playing coy, saying one, and then we can pitch him in game 4 or 5. Realistically, it's game 2, and again, you got to get to the 5th game. For Seattle is don't see 2 starts from Skubal. Just make it easier there. I think the Yankees are rounding into form. There in the National League, there again, the opening number for Milwaukee and Cubs is all I needed to see. And the Dodgers, minus 130 opener against the Phillies in the series. Again, they're looking for Phillies money, even with the home field advantage. Again, it would be a different number if Wheeler was here. We know he's not, but their back end is second to none since they brought Duran over. So exciting baseball stuff as always. For us, for me and Scotty, we are done for the week. We'll be back on Monday, 9 a.m., 9:15 to do a weekend recap, re-entry Monday, we like to call it, and get you set up for Monday Night Football and, of course, the rest of the week there. I'll be on with Andrew McGinnis in about 10 minutes at McGinnis Picks at Wager Talk there. And at 11 a.m., Nick Hathcote will be back for the Midday Market Report talking SEC, talking NCAA football. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. We want to thank everyone for the whole week of following us. Do us a favor. It's like tipping the dealer at the Bellagio or Foxwoods Mohegan Sun. Just like the show,
No.
retweet the show. What?
I was going to say it ain't tipping the dealer. This is how this stuff works. This is a business for our side, okay? And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way at all. And I get it. And maybe we should lead off with this because at this point it's been an hour. I don't know how many people are still on. But the reality becomes is, guys, I'm not begging you, but the truth of the matter is this is a service that we're providing and it's free. You want to keep it free, just click the link and subscribe and like and subscribe. Whether you watch the videos or not, it helps the algorithm. The algorithm then allows the show to be put out to more content, more people can see it. We're getting, 100 people watch us, 200 people watch us after the show's over. That's great. But the truth of the matter is, it needs to be 2,000, 5,000. Well, the only way it gets that way is with the word of mouth. Well, who's the word of mouth? Me? No. Jeff? No. It's you guys. It's you guys asking the questions. It's you guys getting responses that you're looking for. It's you guys telling us what you want us to say, or not necessarily say, but how you want us to answer certain questions. You got to work with us. So that we can build this channel up and make it to be whatever it is you want. Like, some of these are commitments out of our lives to do this kind of stuff. And the truth of the matter is, don't have to do it. I shut down all my other stuff to do this. So my point is it's not tipping the dealer. It's an obligation from the viewer on the other side. It really is. Go watch one of these content creators that analyzes a music video and goes, oh, well, I'm a voice analysis teacher, and let me tell you about this guy and their vocal cords and all this stuff. Listen, go watch how many times they tell you to sign up and do all this stuff and do all that, and look at how many views they get of their stuff, okay? We give out way more valuable information than somebody talking about their throat and all of that stuff, okay? So the point of the matter I'm trying to make is it's a different world because you're gamblers. It's a different world because it's sports. this is, oh, we don't do that. Okay. Well, don't do that. And then you're going to end up listening to people on ESPN. Then you're going to go, I don't want to listen to them. I want to listen to the guys that know what they're talking about. We won't be around. We won't be around because, there's 100 people watching us instead of 2,000. So help us get to that 2,000 number. Okay. That's all I'm saying. All right. Sorry, Jeff.
All is well, sir. For myself, Jeff Dawson, DC Sports Investor, the one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20 MLB, we thank you. Have an amazing weekend. Day off for baseball, back at it Saturday. NCAA football tonight, tomorrow, and of course the NFL on Sunday. Stay tuned.